Hi everyone, welcome to this short video. You may have seen my preview video from a few days back where I was playing some of the new internal oscillator waveforms. Waveforms you can sequence and pitch control 1 volt per octave internally from the NerdSeq. So not only you can play samples, but you have the option to play voices that come out of output 7 and 8, which means you can send them into filters, VCA, and any other module. We are going to look at that in next video. Today I wanted to cover a couple of things before we move into the waveforms. In the previous video, part 7A, this is part 7B, we took a look at the sample blocks. I'm not going to go over them again because we already looked at them, but briefly, a sample block is a set of maximum 12 samples up to a total playback sample memory of 200 kilobytes, and you can save and load many sample blocks. Of course, you can have as many samples in the SD card as you can fit. If this is a 32 gigabytes, of course, you can have tons of samples in there, but at any one moment, you can only have 12 samples, maximum 200 kilobytes, but the cool thing is that you can change this set of 12 samples live as the sequencer is playing. In the previous video, I did that through the menu to show what's happening, but when you do it through the menu, there is a tiny delay when the sequencer is unloading and loading the samples to show the user what's happening. You can avoid that delay and change sample sets very quickly from within the pattern, just using the effect column. So indeed, if we go to this pattern, I have this command here, this effect, load sample block, and I am loading sample block 2. At the end of this pattern, as it loops into 0, 1, I have load sample block 0, 1. So when you load a new sample set, a new sample block from within the pattern, just as a note event for that step, it's very quick and barely noticeable or not noticeable at all, depending what you have around that event. More about this in a second. So let me give you a quick example, and I also take this opportunity to show how to mark patterns, areas with different colors, because I don't think I did this yet in the video. It's very simple. If you want to mark something in a specific color, you do Shift Mark, and I want to mark these first 4 rows, just this pattern for the sample percussion sequencing. Shift Nerd, change the color to, let's say, yellow, orange, yellow. There you go. Press OK. And now you see that section, it's all yellow. And I'm going to set this one, again, mark. I want to mark that section red. Why not? OK. And now this section is red. I wanted to mark this yellow and this red, or could have been any other color. Just 2 different colors, because in this first area, in this first bunch of patterns, I use sample block 0, 1, and in this second set of patterns, I use sample block 0, 2, so you can visually follow when that change happens while you listen to the sounds as well, of course. Let me mute these 2 tracks for now, and let me just play these tracks. This is sample block 1. Now change to 2.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And back to 1. Again.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is just a pattern with samples. These, by the way, are the samples that come with the SD card with the NerdSeq. And at the end of this pattern, I added this command to load sample block 0, 2. Now, you could just do it at the beginning of the pattern, but what I noticed is that it's much cleaner if you do it whenever you have fewer or no other sounds and other samples being triggered at the same time. because of course if you have a longer sample like the voice, it may cut halfway through the moment it changes to a different sample set, of course, because the sample has been changed, so it stops and we play the next one. And if you go different levels, you may have some creepy noise, but it's about being smart with this very helpful feature. Change your sample set when it's most convenient. Remember that these sequence events, even if you have effects here, they are sample independent. You could even go back to a previous track and change all the samples to a new sample block and see how that sounds. Indeed, if you notice here, let's say sample 00 is bass drum 2. Even in this section where I have a different set of samples, 00 is still bass drum 2, because at the moment, we stopped the sequencer here when the first sample block was loaded. After this plays, and it changes the sample block. Now, if I go here, we can see that this has changed to a 626 bass drum 1, because it's loaded a new sample block. So as I said, your sequence of events is independent from the actual samples, and that gives you the freedom, which means you could create a cool rhythmic pattern and then try different sample sets, try different samples, so you can get it to sound the way you want it. The reason why I am loading this sample set at the end of this pattern is because it's a quiet moment, as I mentioned earlier. Here, it's a quiet moment here. Then I have the new pattern starting from the first bit. So I prefer it to load it here, the new sample set, so it's not cutting out any sample that may have started just before changing the sample set. And the loading happens so fast that unless you have something silly going on within the mix with other tracks playing, again, this is just an example track, it's nothing special, you're not going to notice the change. So let's unmute these. So being able to load samples, change the entire sample set within patterns, and as long as you don't have a long sample that gets cut through when this loading happens, so you don't notice it, it really minimizes that issue of only having 12 samples live at any moment and only having 300 kilobytes available. We need to be fair to the NerdSeq. The NerdSeq is a sequencer. It's not a sample playback machine. Even if with samples you can add effects like distortion and reverse the effect, etc., etc. We're not going to look at those things in this video. We looked at them, some of them in the previous videos. You can change the pitch, etc. So there is a lot you can do with it. It's practically a bonus to have 2 sample playback tracks in a sequencer that already has 6 tracks, 2 CV and 1 trigger gate per track. And now that you can swap this sample set anytime, so you can easily have different sample sets for a chain of songs, and automatically the whole set of samples change with the song, changes when you move to another song or another part of the song, so it's all good. Remember, anytime you are on a sample pattern, you just press patch, and let's say you are in the sample set, and you can press OK and load a different sample. If you are on a modular track and press patch, of course it shows the patch for your modular tracks, but we've seen this before, so watch previous videos for all this stuff. Okay. Okay guys, so thank you for popping in for this short video. I hope this has been useful. I think it was important to show the quicker way of loading these sample sets, of course. And yes, stay tuned, subscribe, click the notification bell, because soon there will be the next video where we're going to look at the oscillator waveforms and how you can have synth voices coming out of the NerdSeq together with all your other sequencing stuff and so on. So it's going to be fun, hopefully. Also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, links are in the description under the video, because sometimes I do post some shorter video there for some quick updates. Okay, until next time, have fun, happy Euroracking.